So, can we actually use science to peek into the future? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're cracking open a scientific report that gives us a forecast for a nation that's, well, it's right on the front lines of climate change. We're talking about Vanuatu.
And look, the stakes here are incredibly high. This isn't just some abstract academic thing. When you see a picture like this, the sheer devastation from a cyclone, it hits home. For the people of Vanuatu, extreme weather is a real destructive force. So, understanding what's on the horizon, it's literally a matter of survival.
All right, let's jump right in. The science is pretty blunt about this. Vanuatu is just extremely exposed to the whims of our changing climate. And this isn't something they're worried about happening someday. It's their reality right now. And that's exactly why this kind of predictive work is so important.
And that really gets to the heart of the problem, right? How do you plan for a future when you don't know what that future looks like? How can anyone, from small communities to the government, prepare when the climate is literally shifting under their feet? I mean, how are you supposed to build a strong, resilient country when the basic rules of weather are being completely rewritten?
Okay, so this is where the science steps up. Now, the report we're digging into, it's not a crystal ball. It can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but it's the next best thing. Think of it like a very sophisticated weather forecast for the next 80 years, designed to give a clear, data-driven picture of what's coming.
And this work didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's the product of a huge team effort called the VanKIRAP project. You've got this big regional group, SPREP, working hand in hand with Vanuatu's own experts, their meteorology and geohazards department. It's the perfect mix, really. Top-tier international science combined with crucial local knowledge.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth do they do this? Well, let's break it down into 3 basic steps. First, they sift through decades and decades of old weather data. Then, and this is the really clever part, they take a whole bunch of advanced global climate models and basically tweak them, fine-tuning them so they accurately reflect what's happening specifically in Vanuatu. And finally, they use those souped-up models to project what could happen in the future with 2 really big things: crazy rainfall and powerful cyclone winds.
All right, let's get into the first big takeaway from the report. It's all about rainfall. And the key here isn't just that it's going to rain more, it's that the rain they do get will come in these incredibly intense, extreme downpours. So, the big question is, just how much more rain are we talking about? Because that's what really matters, right? The difference between a really heavy shower and a flood that devastates a town, it all comes down to intensity. So let's dig into the data. Okay, I know a chart like this can look a little intimidating at first, but the story it tells is actually super simple and really clear. Basically, the further to the right you go, the rarer the storm is, like a once-in-a-century event. The higher up the chart, the more rain it dumps. Now see that black line? That's the past. The red and blue lines? That's the future, based on a whole bunch of different climate models. And here's the thing to notice. Every single one of those future lines is higher than the past. All of them. It means that what we used to call a rare storm is going to bring way more rain in the future. The science is pointing in one direction, and it's undeniable.
So what does that all mean when you boil it down to a single number? Well, it's pretty staggering. If we stay on a high emissions path, by 2100, a major extreme rainfall event in the capital, Port Vila, it's projected to be 70% more intense. Let that sink in. 70%. And a number like 70%, that's not just a number on a chart. It's a massive red flag for the real world. It means that the drains, the bridges, the flood walls, all the stuff that was built for the kind of weather they used to get, could be completely overwhelmed by what's coming.
Okay, let's shift gears to the other big finding. This one's about tropical cyclones. And what's interesting here is that the story is a little counterintuitive. It's this weird paradox between how often they happen and how strong they are.
So get this, the models are actually projecting that the total number of cyclones might go down. Fewer of them. But, and this is a huge but, the ones that do spin up are expected to be way stronger. So the takeaway is simple, fewer but fiercer. So for the capital, Port Vila, we're looking at about a 6% increase in the intensity of extreme winds. Now, I know what you're thinking. 6%? That doesn't sound like much. But here's the thing about wind. Its destructive power isn't linear, it's exponential. A small bump in speed means a huge jump in force. That 6% could easily be the difference between a few shingles flying off and a roof being torn off completely.
And then, if you look at Luganville, Vanuatu's second biggest city, The number is smaller, around 3%. And this little detail is actually super important. It shows that climate change isn't a one-size-fits-all problem. Even in a relatively small country, the impacts can be different from one place to the next. That's why having this kind of specific local data is an absolute game changer for planning.
So you've got these forecasts, right? The science has painted a pretty clear picture. So now what? The conversation has to shift from what's going to happen to what are we going to do about it? How does Vanuatu take all this incredible knowledge and actually use it to build a stronger future?
And that's really the whole point of the VanKIRAP project. It's designed to get this data into the hands of the people who need it most, across 5 really key areas. You're talking about infrastructure, so they can build stronger stuff, water management, to handle all that extra rain, and then the big 3 for their economy, agriculture, tourism, and fisheries. It's all about protecting people's jobs and their way of life.
And just to be clear, the economic stakes here are just immense. There's a quote from a UN report that really puts it in perspective. It says that in a worst-case scenario, the hit from natural disasters could cost the country 20% of its entire annual GDP. I mean, think about that. Losing a fifth of your country's economy every year. That's not just a problem, that's an existential threat.
But it is so important to remember this. This research, it's not a prediction of doom. It's not saying this disaster is going to happen. It's actually the opposite. It's a tool. It's a roadmap. It's the information that planners and engineers and just regular communities need to get ready, to adapt, and to build a nation that's tough enough to handle what's coming.
And so that really leaves us with one last big question. As our climate keeps changing, this kind of science offers so much more than just numbers and charts. For countries like Vanuatu, right on the front lines, it's nothing less than a potential blueprint for survival. The science is there, the map is drawn. The real challenge now is turning that plan into reality.